First contact and fear. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the TSS Horizon, watching the strange crystalline ships of the Sci-Fi glitter against the backdrop of their home system. After decades of searching for advanced alien life, humanity had finally made first contact with a spacefaring civilization. But something wasn't right. "They're refusing again, Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his dark eyes fixed on the latest transmission. "The Sci-Fi Council appreciates our invitation, but declines to meet beyond their system's heliopause." Sarah frowned, studying the alien vessels. The Sci-Fi possess technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities. Their ships seemed to bend light itself, and their energy signatures suggested mastery over quantum mechanics that human scientists could only dream of. Yet in the 3 months since first contact, they had refused to venture beyond the boundaries of their solar system. "Run another analysis of their communication patterns," she ordered. "There's something we're missing here." Dr. Emily Patel, the ship's xenolinguist, spoke up from her station. "Captain, I've been studying their language structures. When we discuss deep space travel, their responses show consistent markers of what I believe to be fear. Not diplomatic hesitation, genuine, deep-seated terror." Sarah turned from the window, intrigued. "Fear of what?" "The void itself, apparently," Emily replied, bringing up a holographic display of Sci-Fi text translations. "Their literature is full of references to the Great Darkness and the Hungry Nothing. They haven't attempted interstellar travel in over 10,000 years." This revelation sent a murmur through the bridge crew. The Sci-Fi's technological capabilities suggested they should have colonized dozens of star systems by now. Instead, they remained clustered around their home star, like children afraid to leave their backyard. "Permission to try a different approach, Captain?" Emily asked, her eyes lighting up with an idea. Sarah nodded. "Go ahead, Doctor." Emily began composing a new message, her fingers dancing over the holographic interface. "Instead of formal diplomatic requests, I'm sharing stories, human stories, tales of our first steps into space, our failures and triumphs, our fear and our determination to push forward anyway." Hours passed as Emily transmitted story after story. The first primitive rockets that exploded on launch pads, Yuri Gagarin's historic flight, the Apollo missions, the Mars colonies, the disaster of the Europa exhibition, and humanity's refusal to give up afterward. Finally, a response came. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a Sci-Fi elder. Their crystalline skin refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, and their multifaceted eyes seemed to hold ancient wisdom. But there was something else in those eyes now: curiosity. "We have received your stories." The elder spoke, their words automatically translated by the ship's eye. "They are disturbing, yet compelling. You speak of loss, of failure, of death. Yet you continue to venture into the darkness. Why?" Sarah stepped forward. "Because that's who we are. Humans have always feared the unknown, but we've never let that fear stop us. We've learned that beyond fear lies discovery, wonder, and growth. We'd be honored to help you rediscover that for yourselves." The elder was silent for a long moment. "There is much pain in our history, Captain Chen. Much that we have chosen to forget rather than face. But perhaps it is time we remembered how to be brave. We can start small," Sarah offered. "A joint mission just beyond your system's edge. One of your ships, one of ours. No pressure, no expectations. Just a small step into the unknown, together." The transmission stuttered as the elder consulted with others off-screen. Sarah held her breath, knowing this moment could change the course of both their species. "We accept," the elder finally announced, "but we have conditions." "Name them." "You will share more stories, not just of your victories, but of your fears, of how you face them. And," the elder hesitated, "you will help us remember our own stories, the ones we buried with our courage long ago." Sarah smiled. "We'd be honored." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. Well, looks like we have our work cut out for us. Dr. Patel, start compiling a comprehensive history of human space exploration. Lieutenant Rodriguez, begin drafting protocols for a joint mission. And someone get me engineering. We need to figure out how to make our ships compatible. The bridge burst into activity, but Sarah returned to the window, studying the crystalline ships with new understanding. The Serathi weren't just potential allies, they were a mirror reflecting humanity's own journey from fear to determination. With patience and compassion, perhaps humans could help them find their courage again. As she watched, one of the Serathi ships slowly, hesitantly, moved slightly farther from its fellows, testing the boundaries of its comfort zone. It was a tiny movement, barely noticeable, but to Sarah it represented something profound. The first step of a species remembering how to be brave. The real challenge was just beginning. The human touch. The engineering bay of the TSS Horizon buzzed with activity as human and Serathi technicians worked together to modify their ships for the joint mission. Chief Engineer Marcus Wong watched in amazement as a Serathi engineer named Zera manipulated crystalline technology with graceful movements of their iridescent hands. "It's like watching an artist," Marcus murmured, observing how Zera reshaped the crystal composite materials. "Our welders and fabricators seem primitive in comparison." Zyra's multifaceted eyes shifted in what Marcus had learned was their equivalent of a smile. "Yet your methods have achieved what we could not. You crossed the void between stars with far simpler tools. This fascinates us." Marcus noticed how Zera's crystalline skin dimmed slightly when mentioning deep space travel, a physiological sign of anxiety among their species. 3 weeks into the joint preparation mission, the Serathi's deep-rooted fear still manifested in subtle ways. "Tell me," Zyra asked, pausing in their work, "how do humans overcome the terror of the first jumps between stars? Our historical records speak of the madness that takes those who venture too far from home." Marcus sat down on a nearby workbench, wiping grease from his hands. "Honestly, we were terrified too. But we had something powerful driving us forward: curiosity. It's like an itch we can't help but scratch, even when scratching brings pain. Especially then." Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing the first successful human long-range jump drive test. "See this?" The pilot, Dr. Helena Martinez, knew the jump might kill her, but she also knew that if she succeeded, humanity would touch the stars. In her final transmission before the jump, she said something I'll never forget. "Fear is the tax we pay on our dreams." Zyra's crystalline form shimmered with interest. Did she survive? She did, and when asked what it felt like, she said the moment of jump was the most terrifying and beautiful experience of her life. That's the thing about humans. We've learned to find beauty even in what scares us. Their conversation was interrupted by Captain Chen's voice over the intercom. "Chief Wong, status report on the modifications." "Coming along well, Captain," Marcus replied. "The Serathi crystal tech is compatible with our systems in ways we never imagined. Zera here is a genius with quantum harmonics." "Excellent. We're accelerating the timeline. The Serathi Council has approved the test jump for tomorrow." Marcus felt Zera stiffen beside him, their crystalline surface clouding with anxiety. "Tomorrow. But we haven't completed all the safety protocols." "Sometimes you have to trust your instincts," Marcus said gently, like Dr. Martinez did. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Human and Serathi crews worked tirelessly to integrate their technologies. The modified ships, the TSS Horizon, and the Serathi vessel Crystal Seeker would attempt a synchronized jump just beyond their solar system's boundary. As the launch countdown began, Marcus noticed Zyra and several other Serathi engineers struggling to maintain their composure. Their crystalline forms flickered with nervous energy, creating dancing patterns of light across the engineering bay. "Hey," Marcus called out, gathering both human and Serathi crew members. "I want to share something with you all. In the early days of spaceflight, we had a tradition before dangerous missions. We gather together and share our fears openly. Because being brave isn't about not being afraid. It's about facing those fears together. One by one, crew members began to speak. Humans shared their anxieties about the unknown technology they were working with. Sarathi spoke of their deep-seated terror of the void, passing down through generations. As they talked, something remarkable happened. The fear began to feel less overwhelming. Ready for primary ignition, Captain Chen's voice announced. All crews to jump stations. Marcus watched as Zyra took their position at the crystal drive controls, their forms still trembling slightly but more stable than before. "Remembered," he said. "We do this together." The countdown reached 0. Both ships' engines flared to life. The Horizon's conventional drives blazing blue-white, while the Crystal Seeker's quantum matrix created a spectacular display of prismatic energy. As they approached the jump point, Marcus felt the familiar flutter of anticipation in his stomach. He glanced at Zyra, who was focused intently on their controls. The boundary of the Sarathi solar system loomed ahead, that invisible line that had contained their civilization for millennia. "Jump drives synchronized," Marcus reported. "Crystal matrix stable. Ready on your mark, Captain." To all crews, Captain Chen's voice was steady and clear. "Whatever happens next, you've already shown incredible courage. Let's make history together." Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a brilliant flash of combined human and Sarathi technology, both ships vanished into the void, taking the first step toward a future neither species could have imagined alone. What awaited them on the other side would test not just their technology, but the newfound trust between their peoples, and challenge everything the Sarathi thought they knew about the darkness between the stars. Learning to fly. Reality twisted back into existence as both ships emerged from their synchronized jump. Marcus immediately knew something was wrong. The engineering bay's lights flickered ominously, and the Crystal Seeker's pristine form shimmered with unstable energy patterns. "Status report." Captain Chen's voice crackled through distorted comm systems. "The jump did something unexpected," Marcus reported, scanning rapidly failing systems. "The quantum harmonics between our ships created some kind of resonance cascade. We're losing power on both vessels." Through the viewport, he could see the Crystal Seeker's crystalline hull pulsing with chaotic light patterns. The Sarathi ship looked like a wounded creature, its usual graceful form now twisted by unknown forces. "Zyra, talk to me," Marcus called out. "What's happening to your ship?" The Sarathi engineer's voice came through filled with static and fear. "The void. It's different here. The crystals are responding to something. Something our ancestors knew. Something we forgot." Emergency alerts blared across both ships. The Horizon's conventional systems were failing one by one, while the Crystal Seeker's quantum matrix was becoming dangerously unstable. Dr. Emily Patel's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy readings from the Crystal Seeker. Their hull structure is resonating with some kind of background radiation we've never seen before. It's almost like the void itself is singing to their technology." Captain Chen made a quick decision. "All crews, prepare for emergency protocols. We need tow." Her voice cut off as all communications between the ships suddenly died. Marcus watched in horror as the Crystal Seeker's hull began to fracture, lines of brilliant energy spreading across its surface like cracks in ice. Through the spreading fissures, he could see the Sarathi crew inside, their crystalline forms resonating in harmony with their failing ship. "No," he whispered. "We didn't come this far to fail now." Then he saw it, a pattern in the chaos. The energy wasn't just destroying the ship, it was trying to reshape it. The Sarathi's quantum crystal technology was adapting to something in the void, something their ancestors had encountered and encoded into the very structure of their materials. "Zyra," he shouted into the dead comm system, hoping their quantum technologies might still pick up his voice. "Don't fight it. Your ancestors built this into your ships. Let it happen." Whether they heard him or not, something changed aboard the Crystal Seeker. The chaotic energy patterns suddenly shifted, becoming more harmonious. The fractures in the hull stopped spreading and began to pulse with a steady rhythm. On the horizon, Dr. Patel's voice rang out with excitement. The radiation patterns, they're stabilizing. The Sarathi ship isn't breaking apart, it's evolving. Before their eyes, the Crystal Seeker transformed. Its rigid crystalline structure became fluid, organic, adapting to the strange energies of deep space. The ship was becoming something new, something that could truly swim in the void between stars. As power slowly returned to the Horizon systems, communications crackled back to life. Zyra's voice came through, filled with wonder rather than fear. "We remember now," they said softly. "Our ancestors didn't fear the void. They learned to become part of it. Our ships were meant to change, to grow. But after the great loss, we forgot. We locked our technology into rigid forms, too afraid to let it evolve." The Crystal Seeker now pulsed with living light, its structure completely transformed. The Sarathi crew within seemed to have undergone a change as well, their crystalline forms now in perfect harmony with their ship and the surrounding space. Captain Chen's voice was filled with awe. "I think we just witnessed the rebirth of true Sarathi space travel." Over the next few hours, as both crews worked to understand what had happened, more revelations emerged. The Sarathi's quantum crystal technology had always been meant to adapt to the unique properties of deep space. Their ancestors had created ships that could evolve and change, becoming one with the void itself. But fear had caused them to suppress this ability, forcing their technology into static forms that fought against the very nature of space. "You humans helped us remember," Zyra explained during an emergency joint crew meeting. "Your courage, your willingness to face the unknown. It awakened something in our cultural memory. We are not meant to fear the void. We are meant to dance with it." Marcus watched as Zyra demonstrated how they could now manipulate their ship's structure with unprecedented control, creating configurations that would have been impossible before. The Crystal Seeker had become more than a ship. It was a living expression of Sarathi potential finally unleashed. "So what happens now?" Captain Chen asked the assembled crews. A senior Sarathi elder, their form now shimmering with newfound confidence, stepped forward. "Now we relearn what our ancestors knew, and perhaps with humanity's help, we can go even further. The void is not our enemy. It is our canvas, waiting for us to paint new wonders across the stars." As the crews of both ships celebrated their survival and discovery, Marcus caught Zyra's eye. The fear that had dimmed their crystalline form was gone, replaced by a brilliant inner light of possibility. The void between stars was no longer a barrier to be feared. It had become a frontier of transformation, where human determination and Sarathi wisdom could forge a path to the future neither species could have imagined alone. The Ancient Terror. As the transformed Crystal Seeker and TSS Horizon traveled deeper into uncharted space, Dr. Emily Patel noticed something unusual in the quantum resonance patterns they were tracking. The void seemed to whisper ancient secrets through the crystalline technology, growing stronger as they ventured further from the Sarathi home system. "Captain," she called out, studying the complex data streams. "These patterns, they're not random. They're like echoes of something that happened thousands of years ago." Captain Chen leaned over the science station, her face illuminated by the holographic displays. "Can you decode them?" "With help." Emily opened a channel to the Crystal Seeker. "Zyra, I need your expertise with quantum harmonics. There's something hidden in these void signatures." The Sarathi engineer's response came with a new confidence that had emerged since their ship's transformation. "We see it too. The crystals, they're remembering something. Something from the time of shadows." Working together, human and Sarathi scientists began to unravel the ancient message encoded in the void itself. As the data took shape, a terrible story emerged, one that explained the root of the Sarathi's millennial fear. "By the stars," Zyra whispered as the translation became clear, "this is a warning from our ancestors about the Void Dancer, According to the quantum echoes, 10,000 years ago, the Cerethi had encountered something in deep space, a massive entity that existed in the quantum foam between dimensions. They called it the Void Dancer, a being that fed on the energy of starships and turned space itself into a weapon against them. The ancient records speak of entire fleets vanishing, a Cerethi elder explained during an emergency briefing. Our ancestors' most advanced ships were torn apart by spatial distortions. That's when we retreated to our home system, too traumatized to venture out again. Marcus spoke up from his engineering station. But your ships weren't destroyed. They were trying to transform, to adapt. Your ancestors must have been on the verge of a breakthrough when they retreated. He's right, Emily added excitedly. These quantum signatures, they're not just a warning. They're instructions. Your ancestors figured out how to survive encountering the Void Dancer, but the knowledge was lost when your civilization turned away from deep space. Captain Chen's expression turned grave as she studied the sensor readings. Well, we better figure it out fast, because according to these readings, the Void Dancer is still out here, and it's noticed us. The sensors bloomed with activity as something vast began to take shape in the darkness ahead. Space itself seemed to twist and fold, forming patterns that hurt the human eye to look at. The Void Dancer emerged from its dimensional pocket, a beam of pure quantum energy, its form constantly shifting between states of matter and void. All hands, battle stations, Chen ordered, though she knew conventional weapons would be useless against such an entity. Zyra, can your transformed ship communicate with this thing? We're trying, the Cerethi engineer responded, their voice steady despite the terror they must have felt. The crystals are resonating with its energy patterns, but wait. Something's happening. The Crystal Seeker's hull began to pulse with new patterns of light, responding to the Void Dancer's presence. Instead of trying to fight against the spatial distortions, the ship started to move with them, its transformed structure flowing like liquid crystal. That's it, Marcus shouted, watching the energy readings. It's not an attacker, it's a teacher. Your ancestors didn't just learn to survive it, they learned from it. The Void Dancer's energy patterns shifted, becoming less chaotic, more rhythmic. Through their ship's sensors, both crews watched in awe as it began to move in harmony with the Crystal Seeker, creating a dance of quantum energies that resembled the most beautiful aurora they had ever seen. Emily's translation matrix finally decoded the entity's quantum language. It's saying, it's been waiting. All this time, it's been waiting for the Cerethi to return, to remember who they truly are. The Void Dancer had never been a destroyer. It was a guardian of sorts, testing spacefaring species, teaching them to adapt to the true nature of deep space. The Cerethi's crystalline technology had been perfectly suited to learn these lessons, but their fear had caused them to reject the very transformation that would have saved them. Our ancestors misunderstood, Zyra realized, their voice filled with emotion. They saw destruction where they should have seen evolution, and we carried that fear for 10,000 years. As they watched, the Void Dancer began to share its knowledge directly through the Crystal Seeker's quantum matrix. Secrets of space and time, hidden dimensions, and ways of traveling that neither humans nor Cerethi had imagined possible. This changes everything, Captain Chen said softly. Not just for the Cerethi, but for humanity too. Together, we can learn to navigate space in entirely new ways. The Void Dancer's final message resonated through both ships. The void is not empty. It is not to be feared. It is the canvas upon which the universe paints its greatest mysteries. Learn to dance with it, and all the stars will be your home. As the entity began to fade back into its dimensional pocket, it left behind a gift. A quantum signature that would allow both species to find it again when they were ready to learn more. The ancient terror that had haunted the Cerethi for millennia had become a key to their future, and it had taken human courage combined with Cerethi wisdom to unlock this truth. Sometimes what we fear most is exactly what we need to embrace to grow beyond our limitations. Beyond the stars. 1 year after the encounter with the Void Dancer, The space around the Sarathi home system had transformed beyond recognition. Where once there was fearful isolation, now there was a bustling hub of joint human-Sarathi activity. Ships of both species, many incorporating the hybrid technology developed since their historic meeting, moved confidently through the void. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive structure that seemed to float between dimensions thanks to its crystalline quantum architecture. Below her, a new class of vessel was preparing for its maiden voyage. "The Stardancer is ready, Captain," Marcus announced as he entered the deck. The chief engineer's uniform now bore both human and Sarathi insignia, marking him as one of the pioneers of their combined technologies. "Hard to believe how far we've come," Sarah replied, watching the ship power up. The Stardancer was neither purely human nor Sarathi in design, but something entirely new, a living vessel that could adapt to the quantum nature of space itself, shaped by the lessons learned from the Void Dancer. Zyra, now director of the Joint Space Development Initiative, joined them at the window. Their crystalline form had evolved too, capable of shifting between solid and quantum states at will. "The first students are ready, both human and Sarathi, learning to dance with the void together." The Stardancer would carry the first class of what they called Void Harmonists, crews trained in both human determination and Sarathi quantum attunement. They would explore deeper into space than either species had gone before, seeking out more of the mysterious entities like the Void Dancer and learning the true nature of the universe. "Remember when we first met?" Sarah asked, smiling at her Sarathi friend. "Your people were afraid to leave your own solar system. And your people taught us that fear is only the beginning of wisdom," Zyra responded, their form shimmering with amusement. "While we taught you that the void is not empty. It is alive with possibilities." Dr. Emily Patel's voice came over the station's comm system. "Captain, you're going to want to see this. We're receiving signals from the quantum beacons we planted in the Carina Nebula. They've found something." In the station's main control center, Emily brought up a holographic display of the data. The quantum beacons, inspired by Sarathi crystal technology, but enhanced with human ingenuity, had detected patterns similar to the Void Dancer's signature. "There are more of them out there," Emily explained excitedly. "Different types of quantum beings, each with their own lessons to teach. The universe is full of teachers. We just needed to learn how to listen." The discovery had profound implications. Each quantum entity they found helped both species understand space in new ways. The Sarathi's crystal technology evolved with each encounter, while human engineers found ways to incorporate these lessons into their own designs. But perhaps more importantly, it changed how both species saw themselves and their place in the cosmos. "The Council has made their decision," Zyra announced, their voice carrying the weight of history. "We're opening our archives, all of them. Everything we knew about quantum physics, crystal engineering, even the forgotten wisdom from before our age of fear. In exchange, we want to learn everything about human resilience, your ability to face the unknown with hope instead of terror." Sarah nodded, understanding the magnitude of this decision. Earth's governments have agreed as well. Full technological and cultural exchange. We're stronger together than we ever were apart. Outside the station's windows, the Stardancer's quantum drive flared to life, its crystalline hull flowing like liquid starlight. The ship's crew, human and Sarathi working as one, prepared to venture into the unknown, not with fear, but with wonder. Marcus checked the final readings from the engineering section. All systems are in harmony. The quantum matrix is stable, and the human crew's neural patterns are synchronizing perfectly with the crystal resonance. "Then it's time," Sarah said, stepping forward to address both species through the station's communication system. "To all who are about to venture into the void, remember this moment. Remember how two species, one bound by fear and one driven by curiosity, found each other and discovered something greater than either could have imagined alone." The Stardancer's captain, a young human woman named Maya Chen, Sarah's daughter, sent her final transmission before departure. We carry with us the courage of humanity and the wisdom of the Sirathi. But more than that, we carry the promise of what different species can achieve when they face the unknown together. As the ship disappeared into quantum space, Sarah, Marcus, and Zara stood together, watching the point where it had vanished. They knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, the Void Dancer and its kind were waiting, ready to teach new lessons to those brave enough to learn them. The void between stars was no longer a barrier or a source of fear. It had become a bridge between species, a classroom where the universe itself was the teacher, and a reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from conquering our fears, but from understanding what they have to teach us. And in the endless dance of quantum energies and mortal determination, both humans and Sirathi had found their true destiny, not as separate species fighting against the darkness, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all, the exploration of all that lies beyond the stars.